So it might be helpful to take a few minutes to share some of the defining features of Christian nationalism, which is an ideology, a quest for power, and a lens through which a growing number of Americans view their roles in society. It is not new, but it has drawn recent mainstream attention after Christian symbols, flags, and Bible verses were ubiquitous during the violent attacks on the Capitol on January 6th. Christian nationalism has its roots in the dangerous myth that we were founded as a Christian nation and that Christianity holds a privileged place in our nation that must be preserved. They use the rhetoric of a Christian nation with its underpinnings of white supremacy, xenophobia, patriarchy, and authoritarianism to dictate who is a true American and who will be relegated to perennial outside status. The goal of Christian nationalism is the consolidation of power in the hands of an exclusive religious and political movement, and it is using the churches, the courts, and increasingly electoral politics to gain power over the majority of the American people. The goal of Christian nationalism is the establishment of a theocracy conveniently made in their own image. Unfortunately, Christian nationalism is not relegated to the shadowed corners of our country. A poll released last year indicates that close to 30% of Americans are either adherents or sympathetic to Christian nationalism, and that among white evangelical Protestant, that number jumps to nearly 2/3. 1 in 4 Americans believe that the United States should declare itself a Christian nation. As journalist and author Catherine Stewart recently wrote in the New Republic, Christian nationalists are increasingly framing their efforts as a spiritual battle. And this resonates with many of the more charismatic and Pentecostal traditions. Christian nationalism pits the power of Jesus, their side, versus the power of Satan, which are those who oppose them. The spiritualization of political power introduces a zero-sum game in which compromise is capitulation, in which nothing less than God's favor is at stake, stakes that lead to violence. If you are alarmed, then you have been paying attention up to this point in the sermon. But that does not mean that we should lose hope. It does, however, mean that we should be busy. The good news, as of now, is Christian nationalism continues to be unpopular. 70% of Americans reject calls to declare America a Christian nation. Close to 75% of Americans say they prefer to live in a country made up of diverse faiths and not just Christianity. 80% of Americans reject the idea that Christians should exercise dominion over all areas of American society, and Christian nationalist views on race and gender and immigration and LGBTQ people are also unpopular and out of step with the American public. We are in a crucial moment, and it will take all of us to counteract the influence of Christian nationalist ideology and defend our democracy, and spiritual and religious congregations like this one will play a critical role because of the power that you have.